Stand up for your right. Get up, stand up. Stand up for your right. Get up, stand up.
There's a picture of me when I was about 5 years old, just hugging this giant tree. I loved that tree. It had a special energy that I could feel, even from a distance. And in my 5-year-old brain, it was magic. When I was 9, my house burnt down in a Los Angeles brush fire. We lost everything. I walked knee-deep through the ashes of what used to be my home to the backyard. I was almost too scared to look, but I opened one eye to see a miracle. The fire had actually burnt around my tree.
Whoa.
This was the beginning of a lifelong mystical connection to nature. At 13, I had a female health problem that caused me to spend hours at a time on the floor, consumed by pain. I tried all of the typical treatments, but none of them offered any relief. Desperate, I started reading about natural medicine, and I asked my parents if we could give acupuncture a try. I watched in total fascination as this simple woman delicately set the needles in. Soon I could feel buzzing and humming all over my body. It wasn't long before the pain that had tortured me started to lift. I looked up at her, and I could make out a vague image of my future self. I spent the next 2 years reading everything I could get my hands on about natural medicine. At 15, I tried to apply to an acupuncture master's degree program. The director looked at me the way you'd look at a little girl wearing her mom's high heels. Well, aren't you cute? But you're going to need to finish high school and college first. I was crushed and embarrassed, but I turned to him and said, I will see you back here in 6 years. I finished high school and then college, where I learned Spanish. I had done what I had to do to start acupuncture school, but somehow I felt like it wasn't the right time. There was a voice inside me constantly telling me that I was supposed to help people first. And I knew I wouldn't be happy doing anything else until I did. In August that year, I found an AmeriCorps program in Denver that was perfect, and I committed to volunteer full-time for a year. I served pregnant women, mostly teenagers, some homeless, some were from Mexico that didn't speak English. Rarely was the baby's father in their life. I taught the girls how to take care of their bodies while they were pregnant, and I was their doula so they wouldn't have to give birth alone. First time I was paged to the hospital for a birth was for 14-year-old Maria, who had been in my Spanish labor and delivery class. I quickly found out she knew nothing about giving birth. I know this because when I covered that the baby comes out through her vagina, she looked shocked and said, "Gay?" When I walked into her room, Maria was all alone and plugged into everything. She had felt strongly about having a natural birth with no drugs. She wanted to get up and move around, but she was strapped down with a fetal monitor and an IV. In the middle of a hard contraction, a nurse asked her in a honey-sweet voice, "Are you sure you don't want the pain to stop?" But our rhythm of breathing together and holding hands was working. She relaxed into a trance-like state, apart from pain. But as the hours went by, she started to get weak from hunger. I fought hard to give her food, but it's not allowed. At the hospital, every woman needs to be prepared for a C-section, and there's no food or water before surgery. Wouldn't you know it, 1 out of every 3 women got a C-section there. Despite her weakened state, she fought to the end and delivered a baby that was too peaceful to cry. The look of accomplishment all over her face would stay with me forever. Serving these women through a year of birth had changed me. I felt ready now, and I moved to San Diego to start an acupuncture school there. I learned how energy moves in channels throughout the body, and after a while, I could really feel it. I learned which plants healed what. I was falling head over heels for this spiritual medicine, and at the same time, I was falling head over heels for Justin too. We met on Craigslist of all places, looking for a roommate. And we fell in love walking on the beach on our first date. The program was everything I had hoped it would be, but I started to miss births after a while. So I took a job working at a birthing center at night. My first shift started at the end of Sarah's birth. She was naked in the bathtub with her husband John behind her holding her legs back. They were breathing together in sync. The room was warm and cozy like a romantic bed and breakfast. The medical supplies were there, but they were hidden from sight. Her chart said she'd had a snack and a drink of just about an hour before. I was like a ninja when I checked her vitals and the baby's heart tones. She didn't even know I was there. With a tiny whimper from Sarah, her baby floated gently out of her body into the water. She brought him up to her chest. I was so moved by the ease and the beauty of this mother's birth. A few months later, I found out I was going to be a mother myself. I always thought pregnant women were so beautiful, swollen and full with life. But when I had to go to a special store to buy a bra that was so big I could put each cup over my head, I started to lose morale. I'm so fat, I told Justin, defeated. You're not fat, Brugger Bug, he said. You're a fertility goddess. We found our midwife, Vicky, and proudly announced that we would be having our baby at home. Everyone was horrified. They were positive either me or the baby would surely die, but I knew better. Women who give birth at home rarely need drugs, IVs, episiotomies, or C-sections, and death during home birth is virtually unheard of. I stuck to my guns. I had practiced a meditation for giving birth the whole pregnancy, and when labor finally came to me one quiet evening, my body just took over. Without any devices attached to me, I moved in repetitive motions, hypnotized. Justin's soothing voice and touch became the backdrop of my trance. It was dark and quiet in the room. I gave gentle pushes until finally I could hear my baby cry. Vicky poured a bath filled with soothing herbs and Justin lit candles. My legs were shaky as they helped me into the tub. Vicky handed Jake to me. I held my baby tight. We did it. I felt a victory like no other. A year later, around the time my sweet little Jake had just taken his very first steps, I learned a very important lesson. And that is, every time I even look at Justin without birth control, I get pregnant. My father had a burning question. How did this happen, kiddo? Well, I explained, sometimes when two people love each other very, very much, they give each other a special hug. As my belly got big, I started having this very peaceful, reoccurring dream about an ocean with deep blue waves. I felt this gentleness I had never felt before. I decided to name my baby Kai, Hawaiian for the sea. I went into his birth a seasoned warrior with no fear. When labor started, I went straight to the bathtub to meditate. The warm water all over my belly helped soothe the pain. Soon I was in a transcendent place. In a vision, I saw my childhood tree with its branches continuing on and on forever. I saw the deep blue ocean from my dreams as this powerful force of love, and its water went on and on with no end. I was connecting to something divine and eternal that was beyond my comprehension before. Suddenly, I was yanked out of my trance. I found myself on my bed. I was lucid and cold. I knew something went wrong. The cord was wrapped tight around Kai's neck, and Vicky couldn't find his heart tones. I pushed him out as quickly as I could. When Vicky could finally unwrap the cord, he took his first giant breath. In a state of wonder, in between worlds, I looked up at Kai for the first time. His eyes were open as wide as they could be, and they were deep and blue, just like the ocean. For me, giving birth was a doorway to connect beyond the physical world to something infinite and divine. For Jake and Kai, they were awakened gently to their new surroundings and became very peaceful, happy babies. When I recovered from the birth, there was just one more thing I had left to do to give my boys the best possible start that I could. I planted each of them a tree.